Hello, sunshines. My name is Mariah Rosie, and today I'm going to be taking 3 different book covers and creating a creature from them. Let's get into how this is going to exactly work. So I have 3 different shelves I'm going to pick a book from. So 1 per shelf. How this is going to work is that I'm going to go ahead and do eeny, meeny, miny, moe, and it'll just be a random book per shelf. So yeah, that'll be great. That's how we'll pick our books. And then I was just going to mention that some books have like different elements on them. So like this one has a gear, a leaf, and a key. So I can pick whatever element I want to go into my creature per book cover. So I'll decide that later and whatnot. It'll be good. So let's start with the first shelf. And as you can see, I just have Redwall books on this entire shelf. Also, I have this really cool paintbrush I'm gonna point with because it's really hard to reach over there. So let's get into it. Eeny, meeny, miny, moe, catch a tiger by the toe. If he hollers, let him go. My mom says to pick the very best one and you are it. Okie dokie, what do we got? The Outcast of Redwall. So we got some cool leaves, we got a little ferret in there, or weasel, and yeah, that's gonna be cool to add into a creature. Alright, now we are on the second shelf here, and I have a variety of books on this shelf, which is good, instead of just Redwall. I do have a couple Redwall books, but I have a lot more. I even have a pathetic attempt at having a Harry Potter collection. I haven't got around to getting the rest of those. My mom says to pick the very best one and you are it. Oh man, we have got The Tales of Beetle the Bard. I have not read this book. I read the other one, The Outcast of Redwall. I've read that one, but I have not read this one yet. So we got a lot of different elements on here, which is really cool. It'll be really interesting to pick something from this book and add it to our creatures. Our creature. We only have one. Okay, so now we are on the third and final shelf. And I do have a 4th shelf down here, but ignore it because it has just some random art books and other books that we don't really need. We're just going to do the main novel books. So I'm also not going to include these 3 books over here. They're just like, this one's my journal, this is a Bible, and this is like a wildlife book that doesn't really have a cover. So I'm just going to ignore all of these, and we're just going to do all of these. You are it. Okay, so we have Wonderstruck. So this one is a very pretty but simple cover. We've got the city down here, we've got clouds, and we've got 1 strike of lightning. So that's going to be interesting to add to our creature. So yay! So let's go over the books that I picked and the elements that I'm picking to put into my creature. So the first one I have is The Outcast of Redwall, and I'm going to be adding the weasel or ferret element into it. The next one we have is The Tales of Beetle the Bard, and I am going to be adding in something a little bit weird. I'm going to actually be taking the gem or jewel elements from the edges. I think I have an idea for what to do with them, so I'm just gonna do those on that one. So the next one we have is Wonderstruck, and I am going to be taking the lightning element from the cover. So yeah. So yep, these are the 3 books I've got, and we are going to create a creature from all of these book covers. Let's get into the sketching phase. Alright, so the first thing I decided to do was to go into my sketchbook and begin sketching out my idea. I immediately knew what I wanted to do, and that was to have the little ferret just kind of looking back at something and just kind of standing there posing. I didn't want to do a really complicated scene. I just wanted to do something more loose. So what I decided to do with the gems and the lightning is to have the gems on the forehead and to have the lightning going throughout the body. I thought it would be a really cool concept to have this creature, if you touch it, you get electrocuted, and the gems are like the source of all the electricity. There are so many different concepts you could have for this creature and how it works, and I just really enjoyed, thinking about that while creating my design. So the next thing I'm doing is going in on a piece of Bristol board and sketching out my little ferret weasel guy. I don't know what you want to call it. I'm pretty sure it's a ferret. But I decided to go in and sketch it really cleanly so I can ink it later. Something I really struggled with were the feet and the legs, and especially the back legs. I wasn't really understanding how the ferret's legs were kind of shaped and, how high they were, and the paws were confusing me as well because they're kind of funky because they're longer and kind of act almost like hands to me, so I was really confused. So I just decided to do a more flat and longer sort of paw, and then I tried my best to keep the legs fairly short and to keep the back sort of arched. So after sketching out the entire thing, I decided to go in with a smaller pen and to detail all of the lightning. I didn't want to go in with my big brush pen like you'll see later because it would just get a little too messy, so I wanted the lightning to be more detailed. So the technique for the lightning was actually really fun to do. It was just a bunch of jagged lines and then connecting them together at the end or at the point on the body. And I've never really drawn lightning before, so it was actually really fun to do something completely new and different. Now I'm going in with my Copic brush pen. It's got a really fancy long name. You can look it up if you want to, but I'm not gonna say it. Anyways, I decided to go in with a brush pen instead of, going in with a finer, multi-liner and stuff. I tend to struggle with brush pens sometimes, but I have been practicing with them, so they're a lot more easy for me to work with. But they tend to be kind of really, really thick and line really thick, and it tends to be kind of difficult to get really thin lines sometimes, so I don't use them a ton, but when I do, I usually have actually quite a bit of fun playing with them because they're so loose and you don't have to be so uptight with them, and you can draw lines that aren't connected and just have a lot of fun with them. I wanted to do this piece really loosely instead of being so tight about it because I tend to be someone who does a lot of detail and things like that, and sometimes it can be really constricting. So doing a looser piece like this was really freeing and a lot of fun, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. Alright, so here's the entire thing inked and ready for some Copic marker coloring. How exciting. So the first thing that I do when I am coloring my pieces when it comes to line work is to go in first with base layers. So that can be basically anything for me, even in watercolors and acrylics. I go in with basic base layers so then I can add shadows later. So the first thing I decided to do was just to do the rocks and then go eventually into the actual ferret and whatnot. I thought it would be nice to do the rocks first just to kind of get a sense of grounding. Ha! Puns! Oh, so funny. Goodness. So what I decided to do first on the ferret is to go in with this one marker and try to add in the lighter areas, because ferrets have two colors usually, having like this darker brown almost to black, and then having a very light, nice tan color. But unfortunately I ran out of that one color I was using earlier, or in the middle. As you can see, it's like really lighter than this color I'm using right now, which kind of sucked because I wanted to use that color because it was way nicer, but I just went in and did it anyways. Now I'm going in with the gems and the leaves and just adding in tons of base layers. Very self-explanatory. So as you can see, after I got all of my base layers done, is to go in and add some nice details. So I was just detailing the ears and the nose and stuff like that, and now I'm going to move on to doing some small details around the face and get into doing fur detailing. So fur detailing is actually quite a lot of fun if you know what you're doing. Sometimes you can get way too thick of lines and it'll seem kind of like really weird. But if you do the tip of the Copic marker, you can get pretty thin lines and make some really nice fur textures. It's really fun to kind of see your flat image come alive with fur and things to be, it's all textured then, and it's just really nice and looks really good, honestly. Not to brag, but I just love fur texturing, not on only my work, but when I see someone else do fur texturing in a Copic marker piece, I really do give them a round of applause because sometimes it can be really difficult. So here I decided to go in with a very, very dark gray to shadow the more darker areas because I was like, oh, they're too light. So gotta go in and make it dark. I gotta admit, I do kind of wish I didn't do this. It just kind of looks a little funky to me. I really don't know why. It's not like it's bad or anything. I still really do enjoy it, but maybe I could have went in with a different brown or something instead of switching to a gray. I feel like it would have made it kind of more complete and look a little bit better, but I was just looking for that contrast, Need that contrast so everything pops and looks really nice. Alright, so the next thing I decided to do was to go in with my white gel pen and to make the lightning kind of have this glowing effect. I also decided to detail the fur and like the eye and stuff and clean up some other things, but the main thing I decided to do was to make the lightning glow. The lightning looked kind of just like really flat and boring, and I knew I needed to add something to make it stand out, especially against the fur, because it was kind of getting a little bit lost in there, and I think this glowing effect definitely added a lot. So how I did this is I just laid down the white gel pen and then kind of wiped it with my finger, and it ends up smearing it and making it look like it's glowing. So it was a little technique I found out one time and my phone just went off, sorry. And yeah, the technique does work, and maybe you could even experiment with that if you have a white gel pen. So as you can see here, I'm just going in and adding the final details to the rocks. I decided to go in with that super dark gray that I used earlier, and I tried my very hardest not to let it get away from me and to make like super duper dark lines that I couldn't blend. That gray tends to be like really difficult to blend sometimes because it's almost like a black, which is kind of funky, but I managed to get it under control and to add some more dark areas to the shadows and whatnot. And now I'm just going in with my gel pen and detailing some little things here and there, which is good. And now I'm on to the leaves. So I guess I really do enjoy the leaves. I haven't done a lot of plant life before. I mean, I have here and there, but I haven't really studied plants that much. And with this book cover, I was able to kind of look at the leaves and make them my own, and it was really fun to do that. So something I didn't really like about the leaves is that I made them like very bright. And I had a lot of different colors in the ferret that kind of don't really go along with it. I guess the green gem does, but otherwise the colors weren't really complementing each other that much. But it still worked out and was fine. But I guess another thing is that the leaves got like super duper bright. They really stood out and kind of took away from the ferret, I think, but I still do enjoy them, and I did at the end add like a yellow to kind of try and dull them down a little bit, but I overall still think this piece was really fun and a great enjoyable thing to do. And if it has a couple flaws here and there, that's okay. This entire piece was for me to have lots of fun and to be more loose with myself instead of being so uptight. So I do enjoy this piece and I had so much fun with it. So here we are at the end, as you can see. And yeah, it was so much fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this little challenge thing. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed it too. And if you'd like to get this as a print or you'd like to buy the original, make sure to check out my Etsy shop. The link is below. Make sure to also check out all of my social media and whatnot and follow me there, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.